Digital or physical? The question that has plagued humanity for as long as we can remember, or at least for the past 10 or so years. In the modern age of technology, movies, TV shows and video games have not only become much more accessible on digital platforms, but in many cases aren't even available for physical release. And hey, it makes a lot of sense for companies to do it this way. It's easier for people to buy, there's no production cost for cartridges and discs, and there is no such thing as being over or understocked. But balls to the companies for a second, how does this affect the people playing and buying the games? There are many benefits to both digital and physical games, and at the end of the day you should always go with whichever you prefer. But if you're a bit on the fence about it and don't want to mix them both, then this video will hopefully help you out. For most people, the price of games is a pretty big factor in which games they're going to buy. You want to get as much bang for your buck as possible, and this is one of the key differences between digital and physical games. You can definitely get some bargains with whichever one you pick, but how you get them is the difference. With digital games, you have some amazing platforms like Epic and Steam, and my god, I should be in prison for all the steals I found during the summer and winter sales. These sale events push tons of games at you, with 10, 20, 30, 90% off sometimes. I think they're running on the basis of trying to get people to buy a load of games that they wouldn't usually have spent money on otherwise, and to be honest, this is exactly what I managed to do. I have dozens of games sitting in my Steam library that if it weren't for the sales, I probably wouldn't have bought yet, and I haven't even gotten around to playing them. Other than the events, you might see the occasional green label on some games, but that's about it. The sales during these times definitely favour older games rather than new releases, which is to be expected. You might see a 10% markdown during the holiday sales on newer games, but until a few years have passed, you're probably not getting them for much cheaper than that. Now on the other hand, physical games are much harder to buy for cheap. When they're new. Now from my voice, you'd probably assume I'm from Texas, but actually I'm from the UK. And here we have a really cool shop that I will mispronounce as Kex to avoid YouTube bots thinking this video is inappropriate. I actually got this bad boy from there. This is a shop where you can trade in your old games and buy other people's second-hand games. And yeah, it's not the best because the company wants to make a profit, but you can find a few gems here. Second-hand buying can get you some really absurd deals, unless it's something like this, or this. But one trump card that digital has over physical when it comes to the price is free-to-play games. Man, some of the most iconic games from the 2010s are free-to-play. Team Fortress 2, CSGO, League of... oh god, sorry, never mind. Funded mainly by things like skins, free-to-play games can only exist on digital platforms and are one of their strongest selling points. Or not selling points. You get the idea. Digital and physical games both have, in my mind, one big unique advantage. Digital games cannot get damaged, lost or broken. This is something that I personally really appreciate. Both of my absolute favourite childhood games went missing, never to be seen again. Don't worry though, things like this managed to fucking hang around. But digital games can never have this issue. Unless you manage to get locked out of your account or banned for whatever reason, these games are safe and available to play whenever you need them. Now the flip side to this is that they do take up storage space. This tends to be more of an issue on consoles like the Switch rather than PC, because after a few decent sized games you're going to need to start looking for bigger SD cards. This is why I actually always go with physical games on my Switch. I can't really be doing with worrying about storage space personally, plus I'm never really playing more than 2 games during one session anyway. Of course, this does mean that physical games could risk being lost or damaged if you're not careful. Preservation of video games is something I feel pretty strongly about. We've seen time and time again companies making certain pieces of media unavailable for virtually no reason, other than they're not making as much money off it as they'd want to. In some cases like Overwatch, the servers are getting shut down in favour of Overwatch 2 being the new go-to game. This is a little bit of an issue when it comes to many games that end up with no legal way to play, and results in piracy. Physical games solidify the existence of that game in years to come. Again, this is provided that you keep the game safe, and while it means that some games end up becoming stupid expensive, at least they still exist in their original form. Another thing that these physical games hold over digital games is how easy it is to share among friends. Digital games generally need you to put your username and password in to access, and realistically, not many people are going to want to share their logins with a load of people, who could then go and share it with even more people if they wanted to. This is an issue physical games completely ignore. I remember doing this once when I was younger, swapping my Mario Kart DS with a copy of Bomberman, which was fine, I guess. Yeah, I couldn't wait to get Mario Kart back after about an hour or two. Still though, this is a fantastic way for people to both experience 2 games without having to pay separately for them. It wouldn't really work with something like Pokemon because you'd have to delete the initial save file, but for most games you could at least give the game a try and see if it's something you'd want to invest money into in the future. These are some of the more general benefits that physical and digital games have over each other, but there are a few factors that actually come down to the individual. If you're someone that travels a bunch or takes your console around with you, honestly, digital games would make it so much easier. Instead of taking a few games around with you or having to choose your favourite to take, everything you need is already on the console. If you do speedruns, there is actually a difference between physical and digital games on your overall time. For example, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is much faster to speedrun when playing the digital version, because load times are much shorter. Yeah, I am salty about that. If you love the experience of going to a local game shop and browsing, then physical games are the way to go, because digital has the power to kill these shops entirely. Do you not have much space to store games? Digital. Do you prefer seeing your games lined up on a shelf? Physical. Do you own a copy of the Ninja Bread Man? Please give me a call, I'll pay anything. But most importantly, which do you actually prefer? Because that's what really matters. Unless you have any specific reasons like the one I've mentioned to go with one over the other, then it doesn't really matter too much. Personally, I like all of my PC games to be digital, since I don't really benefit from physical games here, but on my Switch, Wii, DS, Game Boy and Xbox when I used to play that, I absolutely love being able to see all of my games lined up neatly on a shelf, and it comforts me knowing that as long as I don't lose them, I will always have them here to play in the future.